Welcome. This is the Emergence Speaker Series focusing on themes surrounding the Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th, 2026. I'm your host, Marina Orms, and I'm chatting with some wonderful guests to help you navigate the changing times and work with these important transits and what's unfolding throughout 2026 and beyond to help us shape the future in the best possible ways. More details about this series are available at transformationalastrology.com, where you can sign up for a free account, get early access to each guest speaker's video, and you can see all the videos together in one place at transformationalastrology.com, where go ahead and grab a free account there, and then you'll be notified of all these and future events. For today, I'm super excited to welcome our next speaker, Camille Michelle Gray. Camille is an astrologer, musician, writer, civil servant from Washington, D.C. To her, astrology is a marriage of the human condition with the cosmic condition, as above, so below, as below, so above. Over several years, she has seen hundreds of clients and built a practice that celebrates that connection to the cosmos. Her consults are steeped in the soulful concepts and archetypal poetry of evolutionary astrology and are informed by the technical and traditional techniques of Hellenistic astrology. She's proud to have been chosen to share aspects of this research for both the NORWAC and UAC conferences in 2026. So that's awesome. Thanks for being here, Camille.
Thank you so much for having me, Marina.
Well, this is fun. I always love chatting with you. And I think we share this connection to the soulful poetry of astrology and how it can support our human journey. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your take on this Saturn-Neptune conjunction, such a big
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Big change of energy, a new era. So the way that I'm kind of conceiving of it is that so Neptune came along to Aries first. Neptune's going to have the longer transit through Aries. So I really think that Neptune is the driver of the narrative, right? Of like what is trying to emerge in your Aries house. Saturn kind of begins the journey with Neptune, right? They're kind of together. But I do think ultimately, right, there's a larger Neptunian unfolding kind of occurring in the space where Aries is for you. Um, Generally, I think Neptune entering a new sign represents like a new layer of consciousness that is trying to unfold and seeing
Mhm.
consciousness kind of as both like the prototypical spiritual way that we see it. So like growth of awareness, the kind of inner landscape, right, of our lives, but also like those intangible things that inform our reality. So like visions, dreams, and kind of hopes, all of that kind of lives within the Neptunian realm. And I think in Aries, which is like, the first sign, 0 degrees is like the first, kind of point of the whole like 360-degree wheel. Like something is trying to start, right? Something is trying to emerge. And with this flavor of Aries, I think this new unfolding is going to favor boldness. It's going to favor action. It's like orienting your soul or your energy or your intention towards those things that are like kind of scary, a little bit
Mhm.
intimidating, but that afterwards, like after the reality is like there, once you're living it, it provides like a greater currency of agency and like more like soulful Neptunian alignment. So yeah, orienting to realities that are created largely by ourselves or that are kind of shaped right by ourselves, that pioneering spirit of Aries, but also that kind of itchy quality of Aries, which is like, ooh, this is a little bit scary. So that's kind
Mhm.
of like where I'm starting.
I love it. I love it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so we're anchoring. And that makes a lot of sense because Neptune moves slower than
Yes.
Saturn. So that's really kind of the background to this whole energy. Thank you for putting it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's kind of like the stage setting, or you can imagine like Neptune is like the behind the scenes stuff that's in like not the foreground, but that's in the
Mhm.
background. And
Yeah.
Neptune kind of emerging as the current foreground player, or Saturn emerging as the foreground player.
Right.
Um, So let's go into that. Like, what is Saturn? So this can be both an energy that is kind of like hard to hold, but also something that can be fundamentally very productive. We're kind of being gifted by the cosmos a planetary energy that will actually help us build what we are kind of seeking through Neptune to realize. So I see Saturn as adding this initial burst of like grit and discipline. It's like practical. Saturn kind of represents the hard work of distilling these Neptunian things into an actual like form.
Mhm.
So I do see Saturn with Neptune as something that's potentially like a helpful marriage, right? To have your boots on the ground, but your head in the clouds in such a way that you're being inspired or you're being able to conceive what's beyond the obstacle, right? So I love that marriage of both of them. But there is, again, this quality of like they're also kind of antithetical, right? So there is a potential for a productive collaboration here, but also the potential, like these are very heavy outer planets, is like a big change. So there's also this desire or this kind of quality of like uncertainty that I think is coming up as like one of the major growth edges. What happens when
Mhm.
the reality that you're trying to conceive of or that is being conceived of, like I'll just state it that way, like these things are emerging within us, right? Whether we want them to or not.
Mhm.
It can be this thing of like, well, how do I get started on that? And like, what's the road that I take, which is both very Neptunian, like it's unclear, like the real world actions, like what does that look like? But it's also like the 0 degree kind of starting conjunction point where things are just in like the seeding ground, they're just beginning. And, Aries makes a way when there isn't a way. So there's also that extra quality of like forging forward. So while it's just so
Yeah.
potent, right? It's just so heavy. So I think Saturn can really be directive and constructive, but it's also this insistence of like, okay, how's this going to look? That urgency of like, well, what are you going to do? And that may not necessarily be clear like immediately for a lot of us.
Totally. Yeah. So that makes me think of as like the Saturn gives you something to sink your teeth into
Yeah.
as far as like your bigger picture. And you've done talks in the past about Neptune and the soul and
Mhm.
um I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit, and then
Yeah.
I know you want to get into the houses too. So, but just wherever you want to go with it is great.
No, I love what you say about like Saturn and sinking your teeth into something because Saturn is like the actual substance, right, of something, the holding of it in a real form. Yeah, and
Mm.
like Neptune represents like the vapors, right? The kind of the soulful quality that informs those things, the spirit coming in. Um, to say like, yeah, my Neptune research is mostly kind of focused on how it shows up in the Black community, but even through that research, kind of getting to see these faces of Neptune that are so hypnotic and entrancing and deeply illuminating and just so euphoric, right? Like what it can build and what it can conceive of and what it can create in this material form, right? Through the people that it represents. So like marrying that with like what is forging forth here, it's just like I'm calling it like pregnant with possibility. Like it can be so many things. We can go so many places. And then Saturn does add that quality of like, yeah, well, pregnancy is kind of hard. You got to rest, you got to take the right things, right? You got to
It hurts.
marry this. Yeah, it hurts. You got to marry
Yeah.
this new
Yeah. Yeah.
possibility or this life that's being formed within you with like the real world nutrients of how do you bring it to be, right? In the
Yeah.
healthiest form. But again, like
Totally.
pregnancy, gestation, it is difficult. It's hard to hold. But even still, that inspiration, that potent inspiration of Neptune, I think is so invitalizing, especially through Aries, which can be about enthusiasm and energy and impulse.
Mhm.
But ultimately,
Yeah.
I think it's something that we can have a lot of fun playing around with. Like we can accept that there's growth edges, there's the Saturn of it all, but it's really just blank slate, right? And depending on your kind of relationship to possibility and newness and change, God, what an exciting like new chapter, right, to bring about. And yes, it'll come with some pain, but boy,
Yeah.
what can we create? It can be magical.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna bring this a little into the personal, right? So just
Yeah.
like what this might look like for each of us individually, and we've been talking about these big picture energies, So what it looks like if it shows up in the different houses in your chart. But is there anything else you want to say just about how like how we can think of it from that personal perspective of like what is my how do I figure out what my work is through this time?
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get into the houses, but here's kind of a helpful orientation. So Neptune, in whatever house it has just entered, Aries, has initiated a call. It is a spiritual call, a soul call, again, consciousness reaching this new level of awareness, seeking to be developed, seeking to kind of grow. And that coincides naturally with maybe new dreams, new realizations, new intentions, and new inner orientation. So that's the Neptune. We're kind of feeling that in our own ways. Then Saturn, as we've talked about now, is the kind of organizing force behind it, right? So it's the embodiment, it's that edgy feeling of like needing to practically show up and tend to this new reality. It's the kick in the butt in a lot of ways. It's the make sacrifices, pull up your sleeves, get over it, and keep moving. So Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and whatever house it's coming up for you, is basically kind of prompting you and inviting you to embody a new vision, right, in that area of life, or to say it as Saturn would say, to be responsible to a new dream. So yeah, do you want to like get into the houses now and how that can kind of show up for folks?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'll see where you want to go with it.
Yeah, okay. Aries rising, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Saturn and Neptune entering the first house. To me, this is a story of realizing a new vision of character and identity. So these are energies for the first house Aries person that are like very upfront, very like undeniable. Neptune, I would say, is kind of calling forth like, how can you live in alignment with soul? How can you live in alignment with spirit? Where does character, identity, and personality maybe dissolve or need to be changed, or again, just kind of routed in a way that feels like you're more in alignment, again, with like a higher calling or a deeper kind of substance.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Saturn on the other end of that is maybe that harder work of reconstructing and deconstructing the ego or the self, right, in alignment with what is about to come. So, like a different way of maybe tending to your body, or a different way of tending to your energy levels, a different way of maybe inhabiting boundaries, responsibility, and maturity, right, to kind of usher in this new era of self, right, that Neptune is kind of setting forth for you. So it's very presentation oriented, it's very self oriented. It's going to express itself through the personality in a lot of ways. So that's what I would say is coming up for the first house.
That is great. I'm
That's
gonna
you, right, Marina? Aren't you
uh
Aries rising?
I am the Aries rising, but it depends on what house system you use.
Okay,
So
got it.
that was going to be my question. So um uh I mean, what house system do you use? But also, we probably have some listeners who don't even know what a house is. Um, they're just sections of your chart from
Mhm.
your moment of birth, and so where the conjunction is in your house, um, in which house. So it's at 0 degrees Aries. So basically, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for where is 0 degrees Aries in your chart and what house is it in. And so,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
I will just say, full disclosure, I use whole sign houses. So to me, once a planet is in a new sign, it's implicitly in a new house or in a new area. But I do encourage, because I'm a Gemini rising, multiple things can be true at once. So I
Yep.
encourage you, right, if you are an Aries rising, but your degree is like maybe 24, 25 Aries, when we get to the 12th house, to also consider how themes of that are also maybe coinciding with first housey themes, right? It can be a little bit of a blend there, but using your discretion, right? There's no hard on or hard off with these things. Depending on your house system, you can massage it into like a understanding that makes sense for you.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of like take what resonates and what
Yes.
is helpful for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What is helpful?
totally.
What is useful for you?
Yeah,
Um, okay,
yeah.
so the second house represents the area of life that deals with our finances, our values, our valuables. It can be a very tangible space. So, kind of what I'm thinking of here is, folks with this conjunction in their second house being asked to realize a new vision of their livelihood. I think of the second house as world building. So, thinking about how do you want to show up in a world that maybe represents a new level of consciousness around your money or around your values. What does it look like maybe to build a life now around your values? A lot of people are fired up or taking new actions or grounding into new values. To repeat myself,
Yes.
right? Things
Yeah.
maybe have shifted with respect to what is important to you. So I think Neptune and Saturn here brings about this quality of fighting for those values, but also kind of organizing the life force to build and accomplish in ways that are a testament maybe to those new values. It can also just very straightforwardly be being challenged to show up to a new kind of worldly mission, being challenged to be self-starting, self-sufficient, right? To make your own path, be self-made instead of waiting for the world to kind of give you the permission to start. So yeah, world building, a new kind of challenge, a new way of kind of showing up for your material world is what I think of with the second house.
Nice. Yeah.
Third house. So the third
Yeah.
house deals in the realm of communication, perception, things happening at the level of mind. So I feel like Neptune and Saturn here, you were being asked to realize a new vision of voice. So I think of Neptune as being this force of expanding consciousness, maybe taking place in the mind. So this makes me think of what are you drawn to study? What are you drawn to maybe learn more about? If you believe in like bibliomancy, like what books or content or podcasts are kind of like inspiring you in new ways, like keeping a kind of porous outlook with respect to the information, right, that's coming through now. I think that's the Neptune kind of table setting, connecting that to your voice and connecting that to expression as well. So it's not just about absorbing information, but through Aries, absolutely expressing what it is that you find on the other side of that. So maybe someone is about to become like a spiritual guru or a teacher, I can imagine. And then Saturn on the other side of that is like, yes. And then there's also focus, there's diligence, there's again, quieting the mind or focusing the mind. So projects of intellectual rigor kind of coming into the fore at this point, or again, Saturn kind of asking you to really take seriously whatever is kind of coming up to be focused on, or whatever curiosity or fascination or interest you're really being inspired by to really, again, like build on that and not just have it be a passing fancy.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
And just another thing that's coming up for me is as we think about these two planets moving
Mhm.
through the houses, Saturn's here for a couple of years. I don't have the exact date in front of me,
Yeah.
but Neptune's here for till the late 2030s.
Yeah.
So as we're thinking about this, it's kind of like we have that project of Saturn and the new thing that we're embarking on, but the Neptune quality is going to go on much longer.
Much, much, much longer. Yeah, so it's a very interesting, and I think it's deliberate in the way that the cosmos always are. And I do, in fact, see it as a gift. Like Saturn is like, what better planet to have when the planet of dreams enters a new territory, to have like the planet of structure and grounding, to be that first chapter of building. I just think it's like cosmically
Yes,
on time, always.
beautiful. Yeah.
All right, so moving into the fourth house, the fourth house represents home, family, private matters. It can go as deep also as like the inner world, ancestry, lineage, where we've come from, our origin story. So thinking in terms of that. So being asked to realize a new vision of home and family and belonging. I think Neptune here again is creating this setting of the expansion of consciousness, maybe pulling one to reconsider where they are rooted, maybe pulling one to consider their foundations, whether that looks like research or genealogy, getting in touch with like your spiritual ancestry. It makes me think of the word sanctuary. Where in the world are you being kind of called to settle? With whom are you maybe being called to settle with? I think there's also an aspect of the fourth house that deals with community, maybe not in the 11th house way, which we'll get to, but more so like who is your close-knit like tribe? Who is that community of folks that you can always rely on? And so hopefully Neptune magnetizing those folks to you, maybe based on shared spirituality, shared principles, or just kind of creating a new level of spiritual depth with those that you're around or the places that you're in. Saturn, again, then is that constructive force, right? If you're feeling called to, I don't know, move to Michigan, who knows? Saturn is like, okay, what do you need to do, right, in order to do that? So getting like your house together, putting it on the market, finding lease and like contract stuff, that kind of comes up to me. But it's also this feeling of like, take responsibility for your roots, your foundation, take responsibility for how you are potting yourself and what soil you're putting yourself in. Is it nutrient dense? Is it dry? How can you make changes here? How can you maybe rise up and kind of have a boundary with respect to like your private time versus even your public time or how you're getting along with family? So again, those harder, more crucial choices come in with Saturn, those lines in the sand come in with Saturn. And ultimately, what Neptune is trying to do is connect you to a spiritual home, both
Mm.
inside and outside of yourself.
Yeah, and there's so many themes up right now about immigration
Yeah.
and personal identity for for lots of folks. And
Yeah.
so where we come from, what's yeah,
Yeah,
what's the
like what does it
story there?
mean? Yeah, what does it
Yeah.
mean to be a resident of your
Yeah.
country or of your community or of your culture? How is that maybe being amplified for you to kind of reconnect to or really sink your teeth into, as you said, as these planets move through Aries? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So with the fifth house, I'm always thinking about expression, pleasure, and joy, things that we get up to just because it feels good. It feeds our light. So with Neptune here, consciousness kind of expanding into new ways to express oneself, creatively, of course. But I also just want to say, and I say this for my clients, like see creativity as a large umbrella. Anything that has your essence, your style, your DNA is a creation of you. It doesn't have to be, the artist and the artwork necessarily, although it can be. It could be anything that's just a product of your own inner world. And so I think with Neptune entering the fifth house for some folks, this is the call to really create, get what is on your heart, on your spirit, on your soul out there. I do again, because this is Aries, right? So everything I've talked about so far, there is a level of edginess or crisis or urgency. Like that is just a quality of Aries. And I think in the fifth house, maybe something you're being called to do is to like get past stage fright, to get past any blocks you have towards expression, to shine your light because boy, do we need it, right?
Mhm.
And then if you don't like relate to that, it's also like a new quality of like, in what ways can you spiritually feed yourself through a hobby, through a pastime? What thing maybe can you pick up or make time for that isn't strictly related to like capitalism and productivity that just feeds your soul and feeds your spirit? Maybe it has an Aries quality. Maybe you become like a boxer or something. Maybe it's exercise related. But I think of that. And then Saturn, of course, being like the grit and the discipline behind it all. So, just to use an example, because it's the easiest, if you're being called to create a podcast, right? And Neptune can be like, oh, I can reach so many people. I can talk about this thing. I can use these visions and this color scheme. Saturn, again, is like, well, get to work, hire the graphic designer, invest in the equipment, right? Really, really again, put the work into realizing this creative vision. This is one of the houses, and I should have said this maybe with the first house as well, that I think there can be a quality of imposter syndrome. Who am I to say this? Who am I to do that? So I see that as kind of like one of the growth edges of having Saturn in these expressive places, but specifically in the fifth house, giving yourself permission to shine, creating structure for joy, pleasure, sexuality. That's what's kind of coming along.
Mhm. Make it fun.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. Make it
Yeah.
fun too. I always
Yeah.
say when I see Saturn interacting with the fifth house, taking fun seriously. Saturn knows for anything to be enduring, for there to be any longevity, you have to play. You have to take breaks. You have to like, give your mind a rest. There's just no going hard all the time that produces good, output. So paradoxically, Saturn moving through your fifth, take fun seriously. Take
Mm.
rest seriously. Say that Camille and Marina told you to play hooky, right? Like really build it
Exactly.
into your schedule. And there's spiritual dividends from that, right? With Neptune
Mhm.
traveling.
Love it.
So, sixth house, the house of work, our day-to-day routines, the things that we kind of get up to on a day-to-day basis that build our life, which can sometimes be unglamorous, right? And kind of
Mhm.
mundane. I think most especially Neptune entering this house for people is like being called to a new level of compassionate service in the world. Um, Being really called or moved to use your skills, right, in the sixth house, to use your real world efforts and diligence to answer some call of healing, togetherness, connection. I think of Neptune in the sixth house as like just wanting to bring a quality of relief to the lives of people. Then again, Aries, it's born out of crisis. It's born out of all of this heat and tension, right, that we're feeling. And so maybe these folks will feel a brand new call to show up to work differently or to shift their work or their responsibilities in a way that make them a little bit more responsible to what's happening in the collective. But even on a personal note, like the sixth house is our routines, the way that, we make life sweet for ourselves. So Neptune in the sixth house, glamorize or romanticize your life, right? Add more sweetness and softness and cushion, right, into what may be like a really packed schedule with Saturn here.
Mm.
But maybe taking time to smell the roses as you're kind of galloping forward in that Aries way. New levels of spiritual practice and spiritual devotion as well, marrying like mind, body, soul, all of that kind of coming in. And then
Mhm.
Saturn, of course, is like, and with that comes like a lot of responsibility, a lot of effort, maybe being, again, like the duties increasing this quality of like being responsible to something bigger than you. So again, we're seeing like in a lot of these ways, it's not just the calling and that kind of revitalization that you get from feeling spiritually aligned. It's also like, okay, maybe you have to quit your job. Maybe you have to move your family. Maybe you have to sleep more, start doing a little bit of that less, right? To
Yeah.
sacrifice, make some cuts. So that's the quality of Saturn, cutting things back, really straightening things up so you can move forward. And I think especially in the sixth house, people will see that like in their routines and that more classic, like get your life together.
Yeah, and right. And what you're saying is it doesn't make it's not about working harder. It's not about like
Yeah.
sacrificing in that painful sense. I mean, it can be, but like to bring the love and the heart and the spirit in so that it feels good, so that what you're
Mhm.
doing feels good.
Yeah. Yeah, this quality of
Love.
even like, yeah, or like doing this thing or making this tweak or like, making this sacrifice for a greater thing that will be birthed because of it. That's such a great orientation. And it's also like it makes sense with respect to like Saturn passing through and kind of continuing the story elsewhere in your chart. Like this is just the initial pinch, but Neptune, right, is saying like the possibilities here can be like vast and really wonderful.
Yeah, love
Yeah.
it.
Seventh house. So partnerships. So Libra rising's pretty major. I think when things are happening in the angular houses, so the first and the fourth, which we've went over, can be really, really life changing because it just reverberates in every single other major pillar of your life. So the other major pillar is the seventh house, other people, your relationships. So I think Neptune here really connecting Libra risings or whatever your rising sign is. I'm calculating it in whole sign, so my apology. Um, but if you have Libra as your seventh house, being asked to realize a new vision of relationships. And I think with Neptune, the quality of relationships is like, who can I grow spiritually with? Who is meeting me at like a level of soul depth that I feel excited and really energized by? Beyond love, beyond romance, this can also be who are the teachers, who are the mentors, maybe even broadly the communities of people that I want to be around that will kind of bring about this new level of awareness or growth of consciousness. So a level of kind of having this, you know, growth of consciousness through Neptune show up in your relationships or maybe through other people and through engaging maybe in new levels with other people. But Saturn is also saying, as much as Neptune here can be about finding the soulmate, finding that connection, boundaries, right? Discipline. This is where that analogy I made of like boots on the ground, but head in the clouds, especially with other people, with all the romantic expectations we have, it can be so easy to get swept away by Neptune in this house. So Saturn, I think, is like, okay, calm down, be careful, move slowly. What will you take? What won't you take? Readjusting maybe even the relationships you have now so they can fit this higher, more elevated Neptune standard that you may be creating for yourself and what discussions or pivots that may require as well. So yeah, this is really something that's taking place in like your relationship dynamics. It can come in through other people, but also certainly be like the way that your current relationships are blossoming and growing to accommodate this new level of like porousness and spiritual richness that I think is coming through.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
doing the work
Yes.
because relationships are hard work.
They are, right? And that's Saturn, like even new levels
Yeah.
of commitment, like you're getting
Yeah.
married or you're moving in together. Like that's pretty daunting. That's like a scary Saturn thing, but it still serves that fairy tale, like for example, that fairy tale vision of Neptune of like, this is the life that I want. And Saturn is like, well, this is what it's going to require. These are the feelings of discomfort that you have to move through.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Eighth house. This one I was thinking about because it's a lot. It's a pretty
Okay.
depthful place. But when I think about it, Neptune here, I think is creating this quality of consciousness is ready to go deep. It's ready to really dive in. It's really, really ready to explore, whether that kind of looks like jumping off the deep end in life, taking risks, right? Doing leaps of faith, or really, again, like when the eighth house, I just think of intensity and these cyclical things as being formative and like really constructive. So Neptune here is like consciousness is ready to meet that edge in some kind of way, however that looks like for you. And again, Aries, it's fearsome, it's intimidating. If it's not worth doing. Right?
Mm.
So if the thing feels scary, that's the clue. That's the yes. Not in like a exaggerated way where it's impulsive and silly, but if it feels like, oh, this is the next edge, um, follow that. And I think that's especially true with Neptune, meeting your fears, meeting yourself at a new level of depth, meeting life at a new level of depth as well. Just really going there, getting into it. And Saturn is this force of construction. Like, okay, what are you learning about yourself? What are you learning about your core motivations as you walk through this? Or what are you learning about your psychological wiring, how you've been patterned, or the coping mechanisms that are just at play underneath all of these deep eighth house, stirrings. And so really learning more of the self by meeting life with a greater amount of intensity and courage, I think is what the eighth house is going to bring up. And that can be in a personal sense, and it can almost most certainly be with the deep bonds, right, that these people have in their lives.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that making those Saturnian choices to do the hard stuff
Do the
and
hard thing, rip the
but
band-aid
like
off.
you're saying, listen to the heart and like where is it, what's calling you, what's leading you,
Yeah.
and to trust that.
Yeah, it's not just about Saturn saying just take the scary action and that in and of itself. Like you can grow from that, absolutely, but Neptune's around, right? So
Mm-mm.
it's all in service of a dream. It's all in service, I think, of greater relief and greater inner peace, especially when it's moving through the eighth house. I speak as
Mm-mm.
someone who has Neptune natally in the eighth house. So feeling into that personally, there's just some edges and some intensity that you need to instigate. But then on the other side is like, wow, I understand, or my consciousness has
Yeah.
now integrated this shadowy thing or this complex thing that I dared to face.
Love it. Yeah.
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 Ninth house, very, very fun. So being asked to kind of realize a new vision of like your world, what is
Mm.
possible, what is out there for you, what is it that you can go out and kind of get and explore. So I think Neptune here maps on the most perfectly to that like quintessential spirit quest that we see in like movies and television,
Mm.
getting out there, taking the trip, doing the thing that you again will challenge you hopefully to live a more spiritually aligned life. Of course, it doesn't have to be like necessarily always travel. It can be the way that we expand through learning, through kind of deepening our principles or our ideologies by following teachers or gurus or again like mentors in the ninth house space that enlighten us to a new way of living and seeing the world. So I think Neptune here is really about like classical spiritual education, meeting that maybe with experiences in the world that expand your consciousness, new horizons, right? Pushing the edge, but in a more exploratory way. And then Saturn, again, is like, and also, may this be something that holds weight in your life? So I always think of Saturn moving through the ninth house bit as a test of faith so that the things that you believe in can actually like serve you. They're not high pie in the sky kind of highfalutin like beliefs or principles. They're like, no, this is something that has really shown up for me during the dark nights of my soul. Like it has provided structure and grit and stamina. It has provided something I can really lean on to help me understand life. So Saturn can come in to fortify those things for you, to help you find what maybe those kind of beliefs or like core principles are, so that as you go through life and all of its adventures and ups and downs and unpredictability, you have something to lean on, a core thing that never changes, that can provide like support and like faith and belief in the most broadest sense. And also just like classically, like getting certified, becoming the teacher, becoming the guru, kind of similar to that third house axis. So like education and experience and enlightenment really coming in here. And Saturn now kind of cresting the top of the chart, being like, and showing up to the community and being visible in this new way that shows your wisdom and your knowledge and like how much you've grown and learned.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe also like with the times we're going through right now, seeing where our gurus or the people we've put on a pedestal,
Ah, I love that.
right,
Yeah.
are being we're seeing them as more human for sure.
Yeah, destructing
So,
those false
mhm,
idols,
mhm,
replacing them
yeah.
with people who are real, true, and authentic, both out there in the world, but also in your life. Who have you looked up to as like a figure of faith or hope, whether that's your parents or your partner or your friends? Where maybe does that need to be strengthened, but also where maybe do you need to adjust, right? And find a new kind of North Star.
Yeah. Or your own, finding
Or
that
your
from within.
own. Then we're talking
Yeah.
about Aries. You're the
Yeah.
guru, you're the
Yeah.
teacher, you're the
Yeah.
light, you're the
Yeah.
oracle.
I love it. Yeah.
All right, 10th house. I just finished this transit with Pisces.
Mm,
You are being asked to realize a new vision of mission. What is it that you're here, that you're being called to do? Again, I can't
mm,
help but, and you've been doing this so beautifully, Marina, like weaving this in with the times. So, kind of like with the sixth house, I think Neptune is entering the 10th house to encourage these people to show up to the world in a new kind of emboldened way. Again, the path that Neptune walks is may I be helpful, may I be healing, may I provide some amount of relief. So this may be taking place like in career or in like the professional ladder, being called to do something new or take a new stand or just becoming a little bit more sensitive to like, may my career not only serve my material needs, but may it also serve my soul and my soul and my spirit, but also the soul and the spirit of like the community that I'm in.
mm, mhm,
This could really correspond with a new level of ascendance as well. It's in a very visible house in the chart. So, like people looking to you for leadership, guidance, inspiration, you being the teacher or kind of like you being the oracle, right? In that way.
mhm,
And then Saturn is, again, as someone who just went through this transit, the thing that I think of as heavy is the head that wears the crown. Heavy is the head that dares, to take on all this responsibility. To rise to your mission is a laborious task. Yes, it's aligned, it's purposeful, it feels good, but it's work. So to be accountable in new ways, to be given more responsibilities, to really have like the eye of scrutiny be on you. Not that people will be looking for you to mess up, but again, it's just a very visible place. So to be on your P's and Q's, to really rise to the occasion of what is being asked of you in a way that's in alignment, in integrity, right, with what you believe in.
beautiful. Yeah. And also kind of that speaking truth to power,
I love that.
finding your backbone, stepping up, where maybe the representatives or the authorities have kind of failed us and we have to step
Definitely,
up to be
definitely.
in
So
the right
taking
program.
power.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking power in your own hands. So yeah, the 10th
Yeah.
house is like bosses and authorities and like Aries. You got to maybe be the boss, shake the
Mm,
table. Like you have to be the authority. Love that.
yeah.
All right, 11th house. So this is where it's happening for me. You're being asked to realize a new vision of like community, and I think specifically your space in community, how you're showing up to serve others. So where the 10th house and the products of our personal ambition, to back up, I think the 10th house is more a product of our personal ambitions, but the 10th house is where planets kind of move to marry that ambition with like community purpose in some kind of way. So I think Neptune here for folks is like a new level, again, of ascendance or visibility, a new kind of call to expand your consciousness in ways that maybe puts you in touch with different groups or showing up differently within those groups, those like-minded souls, right? That kind of more collective 11th house tribe that we have, really nourishing those things or showing up to those things as a force of like connection or love or inspiration and healing. This is a word that gets thrown around a lot with Neptune in the 11th house, but like fame, I just think it kind of forces one into the
Mm,
spotlight, kind of in the way that the 10th house does. But that's where, consciousness is ready to go. So to maybe have new levels of leadership or visibility or prominence, that your soul is ready to kind of seek and to kind of like be within. So if you're shy or kind of like scared, like kind of a fifth house thing of like, who am I to be this way? That's the growth edge, right? That's kind of what you're being asked to move through. Consciousness is ready to like be seen in a different way. And then Saturn is kind of choose the folks that you're around, I think, wisely. Not every
Mm.
community space maybe is for you. Not everything needs to be a yes. Sometimes it's about saying no. So making those aligned actions, because the 11th house can just as much be a place of personal long-time term goals, like the house of tomorrows. How do you want your tomorrows to look? Thinking seriously about the actions you're taking, the priorities that you're juggling, the people that you're walking the path with, and showing up also as like an inscrutable character, right? To have that integrity and that wisdom and to really offer that to your community. Yeah, in a way that kind of gives you more authority.
Yeah, beautifully put.
Yeah.
Kind of that humility to the greater good. Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. Yes, sacrificing personal gain for like a collective gain. Yeah, and that's also
Mm.
kind of the difference between the 10th and the 11th. It's just a
Mm.
little bit more of a community focus. But I will
Yeah.
say, Aries 11th house, you're not meant to totally disappear. So also, right, that it's about
Yeah.
individual in support of the collective, not no individual and then
Yeah.
collective. Writing
Totally.
that balance there.
Love it. Yeah.
All right, the 12th house, consciousness is reaching a new level of expansion and awareness as it has to do with literal spiritual devotion. I think this is like one of the most spiritual transits that
Mm.
people can go through. So I think Neptune moving through this house brings about this new level of awareness of collective suffering. This is the world I'm living in. How may you feel? Kind of like in a sixth house way, compelled to show up as a force, a fiery force of support, or
Mm.
charity or philanthropy, right? How can you show up to those spaces that are hidden or compromised in some way and really bring a kind of healing trailblazer light right into that space?
Mm.
Um, Also, a lot about like spiritual devotion, like really quieting down, listening to that still inner voice, being guided from like a new level of yeah, like alignment.
Mm.
So again, like a spiritual education is really coming up with like the 12th third and the ninth houses. Like you're really being asked to realize consciousness and Neptunian things in a new way.
Mm.
And then Saturn, of course, is the work of doing that. So what needs to be shed, what needs to be kind of let go of. Saturn in the 12th house can sometimes coincide with periods of time where we are being asked to take a step back. So if you are in spaces of isolation where the outer world isn't meeting your inner momentum, it can be this question of, well, how do you sit with this? How do you surrender? How do you
Mm.
answer the call of this stillness in a more intentional way so that it's actually build so what looks on the outside like something is being paused is actually what's generating like so much inner growth, I would say, in a kind of way.
Mm.
And also Saturn here really being connected to kind of like I said, institutions of support, showing up more for the community from a behind the scenes kind of standpoint, like really putting the work in to nudge the world or nudge these communities that mean a lot to you in the direction of like healing and illumination.
Mm. Beautiful. Two
Yeah.
images came up for me when you were
Oh,
talking about
yeah.
the 12th house. One is the monks and the peace
Yeah.
walk, of course, and the other one was I was just listening to a video on Jasmine Crockett talking about how she was had some there were some unhoused people and she
Yeah.
had water and it was hot and she said, well, here, let me give you this water, and they came out and voted for her because she just saw their humanity and
Mm,
just that simple act of giving water to people and seeing them as human. So
human.
yeah, really.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
love
I just
that.
wanted to share. Yeah.
Aries 12th house is like taking spiritually aligned actions, right?
Yeah.
Taking that kind of sensitivity to the humanity around you and grounded it, mobilizing it, grounding it
Yeah.
into something, which is also
Yeah.
that Saturn piece. Make it something real. Don't just feel it and be overwhelmed by all the things happening. Do something about it. Bring the water.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. So that's such good food for thought.
Yeah. I hope
Yeah.
people like can like get a general sense of what is being called forth in their life. Of course, it's very specific to you and like where it's hitting in your chart, the planets that are involved, the planets that keep on moving in the sky. But hopefully this gives you like a seed or a kind of roadmap of kind of like, okay, this is what I'm being called to do. This is the newness that is emerging for me, how to meet it, but also a little bit of the growth edges around it. But ultimately how to overcome that and kind of be responsible to the new dream.
Yeah. Yeah. Just such a good uh, anchoring and in a way that we haven't talked about yet in this series. So just
Yeah.
so helpful to think about it in those terms, like that we're having the Aries need for courage, and
Mm.
so the courage, the initiation, the pioneering actions and moving forward. But for each of us, that's gonna be we're gonna be called in a specific way, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's helpful because there can be so much happening collectively, like big astrology and these big shifts societally and culturally. And that can feel like so overwhelming. So I also think always in terms of like, well, natally, where is this showing up for you? Like, how are you meeting what is happening in the world in your personal way? And I think like simplifying it and like cutting down, like, okay, what does this mean for me? Then helps you to show up broadly to the changes that are happening collectively. So I hope this was
yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, really helpful. And what are you going to be sharing about if it's okay to ask at NORWAC and UAC?
Yeah.
What are you working
So
on?
Neptune is kind of following me around. Neptune is
Yeah,
my guy, my dude, my planet, my
yeah.
shaman. I will be talking about the era of Neptune in Pisces and what that meant for the growth of American consciousness. So things kind of happening politically, like socioeconomically, culturally, since the moment Neptune entered Pisces and what it means now that Neptune is in Aries, a kind of rebirth, right, of this nation. So that is what I'm talking about at NORWAC, and that kind of builds off of the work that I was talking about before, which focuses the qualities and the archetypes of Neptune to the Black American experience here. So Neptune's
Such a
my body of
yeah.
work at this
So
point.
it's so important, I think, to the reckoning, and
Mhm.
just really looking at the ideals that we had at the founding of the country, and the ways that we are failing, and
Yeah.
how to really look at this as an opportunity at this time to get it right or to move it in the right direction.
I
And so
absolutely agree, right? Knowing what we've come from, what is happening, and what's being presented to us is like the only way to kind of have intentional action in this new
mhm.
era.
Yeah, yeah, almost kind of entering into a new civil rights era, or the suffragettes,
Yeah,
and
the
the
political
yeah,
astrology of it all
yeah,
is
yeah,
daunting.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
a lot moving and changing
yeah.
in us and out there. So, but let's look forward to it with some amount of excitement. We know like the itches and the pings and the pangs that will come, but ultimately, I think it's a really fortuitous new seeding that's happening for us personally.
I sure hope so.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to share?
That is it. If folks
Yeah,
like what
yeah.
they heard here, I often post on Instagram, which you can find me at Millie Michelle, Millymichellle. I'm sure it'll be written somewhere. And then I do a myriad of consults, and people can find me at my website, www.camillemichellegray.com.
Beautiful. So yeah, go check out Camille's
Yes.
Instagram for sure. It's really fun, and our website as well. And go to transformationalastrology.com for more speakers in this series and to be notified of future speakers and future events. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Take
Thanks,
care.
Camille.